Hi.
I tried
Oh,
something different today, and now this is like annoying, but it's
oh no.
you look
It's
tan.
I probably from all the farm stuff. And I've been wearing a hat all day, so my hair's a mess, but it's fine. This is an audio mostly medium.
So you say that, but I actually I
Most
think
of our
more
views are on YouTube.
it's true. It's true. We're YouTube influencers, in fact, not really, but maybe one day. So so yeah, how's the bales of hay? Are we done with bales of
Oh,
hay?
we're done with that. We finished that I think the weekend before the summer camp that I came and did.
Okay.
So like but before the other two episodes we recorded.
Okay.
So yeah, that's done. No, I had
Yeah.
a quiet week and a half with a 3-month-old baby.
Those are very quiet weeks for sure. For sure.
He's still a good baby though. He was not he only had a couple temper tantrums. I think he's starting to teeth at some point, but
So I feel like kids teeth forever, and every time, or at least every time they're ornery, you're like, they must be teething, but really, you don't know. They're just
I know.
ornery.
I think it's just gas. I think
He's a gassy kid.
he's a gassy baby. Hey, his name is Fartwell.
I
Just kidding.
know.
No, it's not.
Your sister's gonna punch you in the face.
I yeah. That was the first thing that I said when I walked in just after he was born.
You said, hey, Fartwell. Dude, I haven't seen you in forever.
I was gonna say that it feels like it's been so long,
Yes,
but for anybody that's listening to this, it's still been 2 weeks.
it's true.
But just
It's
for the
true.
two of us, we feel like it's been a while.
It is. Um, I almost I was a little late launching our pod today because usually I do it first thing in the morning, but I was on the phone with the higher ed of New York State trying to get my kids' Excelsior scholarship all worked out, which is a great
Oh
way to
boy.
start your day. But
Yeah.
I got it out, and I would like to say a couple things. First of all, our pod with Christina has twice as many views as every other pod, pretty much, especially right out the gate.
That's
So
awesome.
that doesn't surprise me. She's phenomenal. But so that was cool. But then the other thing is that as I was driving home today, I realized that I really like listening to our podcast. And I kind of wonder if it's like when musicians are like, my song is a jam because I
I
just
don't
like it.
know. I will say that I don't hate listening to myself anymore. Like normally I don't want to hear my voice, but
Right.
when like I like listening, I do like listening to our podcast. I only do it when you send me the episode just to make sure that nothing needs to be cut. But
That you didn't
I
say anything crazy.
yeah, but I was re-recording some of my lectures today because it's been since COVID since they've been
Mm-hmm.
recorded. So I
Right.
want to update my recordings. And I can hear the difference in the way that I talk now when I do recordings than before.
Really?
I think I just have like I've transitioned into podcast voice.
Oh, do you think you're like the podcast, the auto podcast on like Google LM where they create the podcast for you when you put in a PDF?
No, I don't think I sound like that. I hope I don't sound like that.
Um,
Interesting.
there's a lot of deep mms on that AI. It's good stuff. I hope we don't sound like that too. I've been doing our audio long enough now that I can tell like where I'm laughing and I can tell if I say yeah or mm-hmm to you, like I annoy myself.
Just based on the
Yes,
waveform. Yeah,
correct. That's correct. That's correct.
so
Uh,
funny.
so I spent last week in Colorado, but as you know, but I spent a lot of it at the Colorado School of Mines, which is in Golden, Colorado.
Hmm.
And it is like a geology playground, and I am jealous. Um, so I was there a couple years ago, and they do have like a mineral museum, which is not super huge, but is pretty cool. But then I was having lunch one day and so the geophysical quad, they were putting in new sprinklers in the quad and they're like, what if we just bury a whole bunch of shit and then we use all of these cool geophysical tools that we have to see if we can image all of the stuff that we intentionally buried in the quad, and you can, and it's really cool.
That is kind
Uh,
of fun.
right? So then we were having lunch one day and I felt like I'd been sitting too long. So I said, I think I'm just going to wander around campus. And one of the participants also worked at the Colorado School of Mines. And
Mm.
he is from Australia, which is also cool. And he was like, do you want to see dinosaur footprints? And I was like, are they in another museum? And he was like,
Excuse me,
no.
I'm taken.
That's what my kid said when he said I repeated that story actually. I was like, "Yes. Are they at a museum?" And he was like, "Come with me." Which you should never do. But I
Don't
did
go
it.
to a secondary location.
I brought two lady friends with me for protection,
Okay.
so it was okay.
Okay.
Um, and also he was not a murderer, it turns out, so that is helpful. But they
You don't you don't usually find that out until after the fact.
that's true. That is an important secondary piece of information. So, long story short, they have like a rock outcrop right on campus where the rock has been turned so it's like more than 90 degrees vertical. So it's probably like 120 degrees. And you
Mm.
can see the bottom of the rock bed. And in the bottom of the rock bed are like Triceratops footprints and Hadrosaur footprints and like palm leaves. And I was like, this is just showing off. You have an outcrop on campus. And he was like, yeah, no big deal.
That's very cool.
I was like, we have so much glacial sediment on our campus, so you can suck it.
I don't know. I do think that I know you're trying to make yourself feel better, but I do think dinosaur footprints win.
They crush. They
Yeah.
crush. They crush.
I want to be a little careful because I feel like because we haven't seen each other for so long that we will just keep gabbing for this entire episode.
Very valid.
So, well, on that note, welcome to Coffee Break Classroom, everybody.
We are brewed for higher ed today. Oh, I didn't get a drink today. Welcome to Coffee Break Classroom, brewed for higher ed, where teaching meets good vibes. We're just two friends chopping it up. Here you can expect a blend of ridiculous classroom stories, a little educational research, and some practical teaching techniques. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's talk teaching without the grading. Hey, Chloe, can you bring me my drink over there? Thank you. My daughter is here chopping potatoes like a good servant child while
Fetch me a drink, child.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, so yeah, we are brewed for higher ed and excited to have our second office hour today.
Mm-hmm.
So can you remind everyone while I take this drink what our office hours series is about?
Yeah, so our office hour series are a place for you to write in about maybe stories you've had in your classroom, good or bad, right? Anything that you think would be interesting to get another perspective on, or you want us to chat about or share, that's what office hours are for. And you can send your office hours to our email, coffeebreakclassroom@gmail.com, which you can find on our fancy website that I update every 2 weeks when we have new episodes.
You do a beautiful job.
Thank you.
So yeah, today we're going to talk about a story that I have that actually spans, I realized as I was getting ready for this, the course of a year. It was
Hmm.
2 semesters. Um, and I'm going to tell a story about a student that I don't know necessarily what I could have done. I know that there were moments when I could have been better. I know there are moments in this story where I lose a little bit of my calm, cool, collected demeanor. Um, but there was a student that I had over this last year that just hurt my soul at different times, if
Hmm.
that makes sense. Um, so I don't often get to teach our 101 class in person.
So
And
your
so
one-on-one classes, which?
it's our physical geology class.
Okay.
And it is a prerequisite to every other geology class that one would take. And typically it's for any geology major for sure, but then also a lot of students who are taking their natural science gen ed credits. And so it was funny when I was at this conference, I was talking to other colleagues, and some of them worked at, R1 institutions, some 2 year, some 4 year schools. And like all of them across the board, like more than half of their 101 classes were business majors. So,
Oh, that's interesting.
right, it was weird. I think we're more approachable maybe than chemistry and physics, I think.
And probably biology also.
Right, because the bio classes are often full of pre-med and pre-farm people who are very competitive.
I mean, there's only three types of rocks, but there's like so many kinds of plants and animals.
So many rocks, it turns out.
Just
I know. I know. Um,
you're just like I have to hold back.
I'm gonna remain calm, cool, and collected. So, so Jessica and I split this class where she does the lecture and I do the lab. And the way the timing is set up is the lab is right after the lecture. So they've already sat for like an hour and
Mm,
15 minutes. And it's a hard transition because then they have to do something for like 3 hours. So they're like a little, so I always tried to do something fun at the beginning of class to kind
hmm.
of get students refocused, re-engaged, and excited for lab.
But that's like 5.5 hours of content back to back.
Oh my God, it's so
Yeah.
much. It's so much. So, it's not perfect, but sometimes students don't, they like coming to class just Tuesday, Thursday,
Hmm.
um, especially for their non-major classes. So, um, I wanted to bring the energy. I think there were probably about 16 students or something like that in the class. So I wanted everyone to get through and everyone to be successful. And I was like in it to win it because I only get to teach in person physical geology like every 2 years at this point, the way our schedule works out. So, um, right from the jump in this class, though, I had three students who needed some extra help, which is awesome. I went probably overboard talking about how I wanted them to come to my office hours and how, even though that was the only face-to-face class I was teaching that semester, I would come in on whenever to meet with them because I live 10
Hmm.
minutes from school. So,
How did you know that they needed extra help? And you can cut that out if you want. You don't have to
yeah, no,
answer
no,
it.
that's fine. No,
Okay.
so I noticed something, and I don't know if this is a generational thing. But I've seen in the last few years students who like somehow have a hard time learning in a group setting. So,
Mm,
for example, at the beginning of lab, I introduced the lab, I explained the goals for the lab, I showed them where all the materials are, and then I kind of cut them loose. And I tell them at the beginning of lab that I design it to, I want them to struggle a little bit. And what that means is if I see that they're kind of not sure how to identify something, I'll like I'll intentionally let them kind of work through it without swooping in. But not that I don't see it, but that I think that sometimes the struggle is part of the learning.
right.
So I'll
I
handle it.
agree.
So there were three students in this class who I would finish the lecture part, and like the board is covered in notes, and directions with like asterisks, right? And all three of them were like, so what are we doing? And like this might be after 30 minutes and there's handouts in front. And I was like, oh, okay. So not a big deal, right? Like, especially at the
Hmm.
beginning of the semester, it takes people a little while to get into every class has a different rhythm. So
Right.
whatever. Um, so I kind of I'm gonna just adjust. There we go. So it wasn't a huge deal. And but they did need me to explain everything sometimes that I had already said one on one to them. They didn't want to ask their lab partner. And so over the years, I've had students who've over relied on their lab partners to the point where the work that they're doing isn't even really theirs, right? They're just
Yeah.
kind of copying. So I see that like asking for individual help like is better than not doing the work, right? So I want to reward that initiative. So I would go through and teach it to each one of them again, or not teach it, but like go through what we were doing again. And so when I got done with that, of course, there were like 20 or 15 hands up or whatever it was, because I had been kind of working with them. I tried doing it in small groups. I tried putting them together as well, thinking that
I
they
was
could
gonna
be
ask it.
support. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes that helped, and a lot of times it didn't, but they were invariably like the last three people in lab every week, which is fine
Hmm.
because some people have to be the lab. Someone always has to be, right? The last person in lab. Um, so we had the first couple of weeks of lab and they weren't done by the end of lab. Um, and like a lot of physical geology classes, our beginning labs are mineral identification because that's content you do at the beginning of lecture. And it's technical. It's not the most user-friendly way to start a class. Let's just say that. There's a lot of terms. There's a lot of there's a lot of skill sets that you're building right at the beginning. So I was like, not a big deal. Let's look at your schedule and let's figure out when you can come in. These are my office hours. And whether it was true or not, no one could come to my regularly scheduled office hours. So I I was coming in every week to do labs with them extra, like outside of my office hours. Um, and once again, it was like I was re-explaining the concepts over and over and over. But of those three, there was one girl that stood out. And she is the focus of our conversation tonight. And I wish that I had figured more things out with her. Um, so she would, and during she kind of liked rocks and minerals, so during that part of the semester it wasn't terrible, because she was kind of into it and she had a really good attitude, and
Well,
she was, yeah,
that's the part where it's like a flow
right,
chart, right? Like you just
yes,
you do X and then oh, like yes, no, you do Y. Yeah.
kind of, yeah, but like she was into minerals, so there's crystal girls for sure out there. She wasn't a crystal girl, but she was probably like crystal girl adjacent, let's just say.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
Mineral girl. Yeah.
yes, so and then about halfway through the semester, we switched to maps and we started with topographic maps. And that was like a struggle. And generally, what happens in physical geology, you either really like rocks and minerals, or you really like maps, or you like none and then it's miserable, or you like both and then you become a geologist. Like that's it's straightforward.
Good to know.
Yeah. So she did not like maps like at all. Um, and so it was the same sort of thing where she would come to my office hours, she would stay late in lab, but like she was like putting in the work, right?
Right.
And so great. You know what? It takes you extra time to learn it. Awesome, because you're not quitting, and I love that about you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I gave them, they have like this really small mini practical. There's probably 40 points. We do like a week or two of topographic maps, and then we have a very short mini practical just on topographic maps. And the purpose of that is to make sure they know how to do really basic map things so that they can apply them on more complicated systems in the subsequent weeks.
So you're saying 40 points, like what about percentage wise of that is
So percentage wise, oof,
just give me the total. What's the total number of points for your class?
oh, that's adorable to think that I know that number.
Oh,
I would
okay.
guess it's like 700. Let's just
Okay.
say 700. Okay. That might be an overstatement, but it's a lot of points. It's a lot of points. 40 points is very, very small. Um, so, and sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes I do it for 30 points depending on the semester. So I give them a review sheet for this.
Sorry, I just love
Yeah.
that numbers have no meaning to you. I don't know how much this is worth. Sometimes it's a different amount of points. I just go with what I feel. Just
I'm
like
also,
out.
whoops, a crystal girl at heart, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. Um, but okay. So yeah, I don't know. It's a very small lab practical. It's very small.
Right.
We even call it like a mini practical. And it's like the front and the back of a sheet of paper. Half of it is like, can you find and understand the information around the margins of a topographic map? Can you use a string to figure out how long a stream is using a bar scale? Like,
Yeah.
can you tell elevations of buildings? Like, all the stuff that they've learned if they've taken earth science, which most students have because in New York State, you generally do, but not everyone does, but most
That's
people do.
yeah, that's usually the one that you do. It's like biology or science and chemistry, and then
Yes.
sometimes physics.
Sometimes for the smart kids.
Sometimes.
Ooh, please sing.
No, that was me trying to do a sad voice.
Oh, sorry. So, so I gave her this review. I gave everyone this review sheet where
Yeah.
it's just you basically do the same thing on a slightly different map, but it's like an adjacent map, like the contour interval, which is the change of in it doesn't matter
Elevation. Yeah.
elevation between lines, like is the same. It's the same scale. Like it's like do this again and see if you can do it on a slightly different, which is actually all the topo
Hmm.
practical is. It's the same skills on a different set of maps or on a different map. And it was like nothing we had done the last 2 weeks had stuck at all. And so
Hmm.
like it was somehow how we were starting from ground zero. So in that lab, which was I think on a Tuesday, we stayed till the end. We finished the review sheet. I gave her the answer key too, so she could kind of check her work as she was going along. But there was no going along. It was like I was
Hmm.
pulling her along. And then I was like, all right, so let's talk about when you're going to come back for a review. And so she came back, and I had extra copies of the review sheet. So she came back the next day, which was a Wednesday, and we did the review sheet again in my office. And it was like she had never seen the review sheet before, but it was the same review sheet as Tuesday. And so then she came in Thursday, and it was the same thing. And Friday,
With the same review sheet.
the
So it was just
same review sheet, the same map,
4 days in a row.
4 days in a row. And I like, I didn't see any growth. So it told me that
Yeah.
what I was doing was just not working at all. But I would have to talk her through every question. And then she could sometimes answer some of them if I was there to like be like, okay, um, here's
Like
this line.
nudge. Yeah.
Yes. So there was this one day, I think it was either a Thursday or a Friday, when I started to feel like I was starting to give up that any of this was sticking. And I had pulled up old files where I had different examples of like how I had taught it in the past, thinking, all right, something else is going to stick. So there was this diagram I had of like the side view of a hill. And on the side view of the hill, there were contour lines. So
Yeah.
what she wasn't necessarily grasping at that moment was that, like, if you have one contour line, if a house is between two lines and one is like a 700-foot line and the other one is a 710-foot line, that the house, the elevation of the house has to be between 701 and 710. Um, so I did showed her this side view, and like she said, "Oh," like the way students say "oh" when they have just got something, and
When
no,
they get it.
yes, and I was like, "Yes." Okay. So then we go back to the map. Now, this is important. So the house that I had asked her about was between the 690 line and the 700-foot line. And I was like,
Hmm.
okay, so same exact, like same situation. What is the, like, what is the range of elevations that this house could be? And she said 690. And I was like, okay, so we know it can't be 690, right? Because the house isn't on the 690-foot line. So it's got to be a little more than 690. Is the least it could be? And she's like 691. I'm like, yes. All right. So write that down. That's the low range, right? And I'm like, all right, and here's the 700-foot line. And we can see that it's not at the 700-foot line. So what's the lowest it could be? What's the highest, sorry, that it could be for the elevation of this house? And she said 701. And I was like, no, right? Because it's got to be between 690 and 700. It's got to be below 700. What's the smallest it could be below 700? And she stared at me, and she stared at me. And in slow motion, she reached over and grabbed a calculator. And I sat there and I watched her type in 700 minus 1 equals. And I felt in that moment so defeated. Like I felt like this little candle that was burning inside of me was like snuffed out.
I don't even know what I would do in that situation.
It was
That's, yeah.
it was really hard. And it was it was a little sad. Like it was sad.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think like where was this student failed? Like where along the line did the
Right?
education system fail this student?
Like it had to be a lot of times, right? Like it wasn't just one moment.
Yeah, right. But like I do want to say before we start like scratching our heads about this, like one like I guess kudos to the student for like showing up.
Yes.
Like that takes a lot of effort, especially when you don't like something and you're not getting something, like to
Yes.
continue to show up. And I also want to say like kudos to you for the extra time that you put in to do that. I mean, I know it's easy to put in extra time when the students are trying to put in extra time. Like
Yes.
I feel the same way, but still like that's a lot out of you. And I think it's totally reasonable to be a human being when you're like the fourth day in a row doing the exact same sheet, like it's
Oh,
new. It's
yeah.
it's rough.
So when she left my office that day, I felt like this weird sense of defeat. So I was like, who is this student? And like, so clearly I felt like there was either a processing issue or like there was something else happening there.
Right. Something you
So
were missing.
yes, some information that I didn't have. And as instructors, we're often not given like a full story because of it's none of our business. So I pulled up her degree works, which is our degree audit system, and like the transcript is sort of in there. It's kind of just embedded in it. Um, and the first thing I saw when I pulled it up was that she was a biology major. And I was like, why is this girl even in this class? Like, why is she taking physical geology? And so then I saw that she had failed almost every biology class and almost every math class she had taken, but she was doing really well in like her English classes and her liberal arts classes. And I was like, who put her in here and why? Like, um, and it was bananas. And so at some point, I want, like, in this many day process, I started asking her a little bit about herself because I was curious. And
Hmm.
like, she lived with her grandparents and it turns out, dropped her off at school and stuff like that. And she was worried about her grandmother because her grandmother was having some health issues. And so, like, at some point, we developed this like rapport. Even though it was hard sometimes having her in my office. So just to wrap that story up, on Monday she came back to my office hours again and wanted me to work with her one on one, but there were like seven people then because the day was like that test was the next day, and I pushed her and I was like, look at me, you know how to do this. You just need to find it inside you. You have done this worksheet. I know you know more than you're letting on. Here's the answer key, which she's had access to the whole time. I'm like, I
Yeah.
want you to do these things by yourself, and I will come and check. And if you have them wrong, we'll talk about why. Um, and that was a little helpful because at that point I stopped and I was like, I feel like you don't have confidence in you.
Yeah.
And you know more of this than you think.
Do you think that would have helped you to do that earlier?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Because,
Before day four. Yes.
yeah, before the fourth day of doing the same sheet.
Yes.
Because I think one of the things that I try to do when I have a student, like I agree with you about like sometimes the struggle is needed to figure out like what you need to do,
Yeah.
like to get from point A to point B. Like what is it that you need to accomplish? And sometimes you need to sit at point A for a while and like see what the options are. And
Yes.
so when I have students that need a lot of handholding like that, I will completely switch up to like the Socratic method and like just to
Okay.
ask them
Yeah.
questions. I don't have a good example, but I would say like, what's the next thing that you would do if we were looking at this? And if they're like,
Hmm.
well, I don't know, I'm like, okay, well, we here's a couple examples in our notes. Take a look at that. Try and figure out what we did. Come back to this problem and like make that jump yourself. I don't know how useful that would be in like a in the context of your assignments that you're looking at, but that's one of the things that I try to do is like, hey, what do you need to do? And if like they don't have the answer, I'm like, okay, well, here's like the two other places you can go take a look at that.
Yeah.
Figure it out, and I'll come back if you can't find it in like 5 minutes.
She was like shocked that Monday when I was like, do
Yeah,
this yourself. You got this. And she was like, what? And I was like, you have to
yeah,
take this yourself tomorrow. So, and there were some things that she got, and she took the test and she did okay on the test. Not great. I not For a student who put in as much work as she did, she probably would have wanted a higher grade. Let's just say that.
sure.
However, the next week we were sitting together trying to do latitude and longitude, and I explained it slightly different, and then she actually did get it, and that was like, holy cow! I don't know what sort of block was in there, but we pushed through. We got through it, so that was
Yeah, that's
awesome,
wild.
right? Yes, it did help her on the final, so that was useful.
Did you write down the difference anywhere? Like just like in how you describe things, so you just have that
Yes,
for later. Good.
yes. It was funny. So like topo maps, just to get in the weeds a little bit more,
Sure.
they're like, especially like, so we use 7.5 minute maps. So they're divided into thirds, and every third goes up 2.5 minutes of latitude, for example. So instead of being like, okay, this southern part is 50 and 50 minutes, and this next segment up is 52 minutes. And so, what could it be in between 50 and 52? And she'd be like, 54. And I'd be like, is 52 in between, or is 54 in between 50 and 52? And she would be like, no. And I'm like, okay, what
I
number is, yeah.
Yeah, I did have a thought there too when you were looking at the lines and you were saying like, oh, it's 600. So like what's the lowest it can be? And it's like, oh, 601. And then you go to 700 and you're like, what's the highest that could be? And it's like 701. Because like, oh, adding one worked last time.
It
So
did.
I'm just gonna do the same thing again here.
Oh, yes.
I'm
Yes. No, I
yeah.
get that. I get that. It was though using the calculator to subtract one from 700 that crushed me a little bit.
And for anybody else that's listening, minutes are like the next level down in terms of degrees, in terms of units,
Yes.
right? So it's like
Yes.
hours, minutes, seconds on a clock, but it's
It's
like
so
degrees,
stupid.
minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
It's stupid because it has nothing to do with time, but they really want it to, because minutes and seconds are units of time, except when we're talking about
Yeah.
angles, and then they're subunits of angles, and it's stupid. Um, but that's math. It's fine. Um, so anyway, what I did that was different between the 50 and the 52 is I started being like, okay, this is 50. So this has to be 51 here, right? And this has to be 52. And she was like, is that how this works? And I was like, oh my God. Yes, that's how this works. I just wrote it all out on the, I was like, this is a grid. This whole thing is a grid, which I'm sure I had said a dozen times before that, but like
Right.
actually writing out the grid, she was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, oh," and I'm like, "God damn it!" But the story continues here; it doesn't end here.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm
No,
just still the numbers part is what's getting me. Like, can I don't know if you can share like where she was math wise. Like, what math classes was she taking about that time?
she, I'm pretty sure, had passed a college level math class.
Okay.
So it wasn't that we have a lot of students who are in remedial math. She was no longer
Yeah.
in remedial math. Um, yeah. So my my next semester, I was teaching historical geology, which is like a second level geology class. And really, the only students who are in there, there's two types of students that are typically in there. One is geology majors, and the second are math students, because math students a lot of times need a 2 semester science sequence. So they'll take physical and then they'll take historical geology. And historical geology is the history of the earth. It's a freaking awesome class. Well, hello, Lizzie. And so I look at my class list and the student is on it. And I was like, what?
Why?
Why are you in this class? Who is advising you?
Still
Um,
a biology major.
yes,
Yeah.
still a biology major, still has never passed a biology class. Like, oh my God. Um, and so I had this moment where I'm like, oh my God, it's just gonna be just like last semester, only the stuff we do in historical is significantly more challenging than what we do in physical. So I was like, this is gonna be worse.
Because that's where all the language and stuff is, though, right?
There's a lot. Yeah. And like we're talking about crazy things. Like we talk about how the Earth's atmosphere became oxygenated. And we talk about like how continents are built. And there's so much chemistry in historical geology, at least the way I teach it. And like
Okay.
there's plenty of overlap between bio because it's like the history of life too. That's part of the history of the earth. And so, but in terms of content, it's next level. And I usually go a little bit faster because I assume that they know some stuff from 101. Um, but the thing is, like, she got through 101, but just barely, like
Yeah.
just barely. And so I was like, oh my God. All right, we'll just get through it the same way we got through it last semester. And it is what it is. Um, but the craziest thing happened then. She never, maybe one or two times came for office hours the whole semester. Um, in fact, one time she was late to class all the time. And I'm usually super like whatever about late to class, but this was a smaller class. I think there were like 7 people in it or something, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, and so usually I'll look to see like people take buses. Like I knew her grandparents were dropping her off. So I peeked at her schedule and I saw that she was already on campus. That she had my class was at 1 o'clock. She had an 11 o'clock class. Then she had a break, and then she had my class at 1. So she was and she was on our campus too. So for whatever reason, she never came to my 1 o'clock class on time. So
Interesting.
and it was disruptive because when she would come in, she would stand there and like I'm teaching because it's like 7 or 8 minutes late in a 50-minute class. And she slowly unzippers her bag and sifts through it and finds her notebook and gets it out and then gets out a pencil. And I'm like, what the hell? You're just missing more and more and more. So I'm trying not to be a control freak, but I'm also cognizant of everyone's learning experience too. Like the other people in the class, and she's standing there. So I wait, and after class one day, I was like, "Hey," she had asked a question about something, and I answered her, and I was like, "Hey, I just want you to know, I really kind of need you to get to class on time. Like, I know you're here. It's important for everyone that you're here." And one of the questions that she had stayed late to ask me, I was like, I actually already went over all this because I did it at the beginning of class. And
Hmm.
I just think it'll be better for you. You'll be more successful. You'll have a better idea what's going on if you're here when class starts. And she was like a little taken aback, but was like, okay. Um,
I mean, at that point too, you've built up enough rapport.
right, right.
Yeah.
um, and once in a while she would be on time to class. But what she would typically do is get there on time, put down her bag, not unzip it, and then go to the ladies' room for 7 or 8 minutes and then come back. And I was like, what are you doing? This is not solving the problem. Your backpack is not learning for you while you're gone. So there's some time management stuff that we're going on there. Um,
And
yeah,
that stuff wasn't an issue in the previous semester.
no, not at all. Not at all.
So I'm wondering, like, if something happened with the grandmother, or like what's going on in that 12 to 1 minute period. Maybe like there's another appointment that's going on somewhere in the tutoring center or something like that. That's maybe was running late.
Maybe. Yeah, I never learned what she was doing in that hour
Yeah,
in between. You're right. She could have been in the tutoring center and then just got to me late and then needed a break, which is all reasonable, but doesn't solve the
I know.
issue.
I agree.
But yeah.
It's time management, right? Like it's thinking about, okay, how can we structure your schedule so that it's working better for you?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Um, and then towards the end of the semester, it was like Mother's Day weekend. And she's like, I'm going to be gone for like 3 days. I think she went to Boston or something. So she missed like a lab and 2 lectures. And I was like, and I was frustrated at this point because I was like, at least last semester you were working hard, and I don't mind putting in extra time and working hard for you if I feel like you're in it to win it too.
Hmm.
Um, and I was like, do you really think that's like the best idea? And by the way, her grandparents were fine because they used to, would see them drop her off and pick her up. So, or they saw her then pick her up after class a lot
Yeah.
of days. Um,
So
that doesn't mean
weird.
there wasn't anything else, but yeah,
Yeah, I know. I definitely feel like I feel like there's got to be something.
yeah,
Like it seems like a drastic change in behavior, and
yes.
I'm curious too about like how the performance in the class compared to the previous semester.
It was not great. So it was,
So she was doing less and doing worse then.
there were times that she did much worse.
Okay.
She again passed the class, but just barely, like just barely.
Hmm.
And probably part of the reason she passed the class is because I think there was at least one test where she got like a 30 on it or something like that. And I put a 50 in my grade book because I thought there was no, I would do that. I did that for other students as well. There was one other
Yeah.
student who, especially, like, she was taking a lot of hard classes in a semester, and you know how tests seem to sometimes pile up where you have like two or three in a week, and she also got like a 30 on a test. But again, I put it in a 50 because I just think that 30s are mathematically, they destroy students sometimes. And it so I did. Um and the other girl like was super appreciative. I don't know if this girl was ever appreciative, but the other girl um was like actually wrote me a note that I read in our institute actually about how just because you mess up one thing doesn't mean your whole semester gets destroyed. And that was the one thing that she had messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, this girl was like, so I was like, do you really think that's like a great idea? Do you want to schedule time to come see me? And like, I have like recorded lectures that you could use, but like, it's not the same thing as being here.
Right.
And she looked
And
at
there's still a
me.
lab. Like you still have a
Yes,
lab. Like,
yes,
yeah.
yes. And she looked at me and she was like, well, that's what I'm doing. And I was like, okay. Okay. So she did. She took a vacation, and then like 2 weeks later, she skipped a Friday to go to New York City. I don't remember why. It was a club thing or whatever. But like, and she at one point, I did this because I was like, what happened to this kid? Right.
Yeah.
Um,
This is an entirely different student. And I'm almost
yes.
feeling there's got to be some sort of brain chemistry thing going on. Like, I know there's a lot of people out there who are like, what was the fun word that I used? Neurosparkly.
Yes.
But they're just
Or
thinking like,
neurospicy.
yeah,
Yes.
neurospicy, neurosparkly. Just like I'm thinking like this, if there was some sort of shift in like a medication or something like that can kind of change
That's
behavior on a
true.
like a larger scale. But I mean, I don't want to
Make
say
inferences.
that like
Yeah.
the student was dealing with any of that type of thing, but I just like this is a drastic behavioral difference.
It was a lot. It was a lot. And so at one point when I didn't want to make class feel negative. Like that's a big
Yeah,
thing for me. So at one point, but I was frustrated with her and her classmates were frustrated with her. They were probably picking up on my energy, let's be real. So,
I don't know.
you
They
know,
know what's going on. Like
they do.
like
They see
they
things
know.
too, right?
Yeah.
So I started class one day and I was like, everybody take out a piece of paper. And I had them write down their goals. Like, why are you at school in school? And then I had them write down how does being successful in this class help you achieve your goals? And I thought it would be useful to recenter like their why and be like, this is why I'm doing this. This is really hard. This is a lot. And to be honest, it actually did help that student for like maybe a week.
A
Uh,
week. Yeah.
yeah, but it was a short-lived transition. What I probably could have done is actually collect and save those things and give it back to them like a week before an exam or something like that, or just something to help motivate them because it was at least partially motivating for
Yeah,
her.
a week is long enough to like feel like you have some space before life piles it back on.
That's true. That's very
Yeah.
true. That's very true. But in there, she wrote that she was taking this class because it was one of the last classes that she needed to graduate. And I was like,
Probably like
really?
just a liberal arts thing then.
So then I went back in and I was like, and she was still listed as a biology major. And I was like, all right, so what if we switched her degree to like liberal arts general studies? She still needed like four classes. She probably didn't make it up. Like she probably maybe she did. Maybe she did. So clearly there was some gaps in understanding and stuff like that. But she was convinced that passing my class was going to help her, like this was going to be it. She was graduating this semester. She was not. There was not a chance on the earth that she was going to be graduating this semester. So I don't know. There was a lot to there, it was a lot. And I also then didn't want to say, "Hey, guess what? Looked at your transcript. There's no way you're graduating this semester either." Because it was like none of my business
Like
really.
whose responsibility is that
I mean,
to have
probably
that
her
conversation?
advisor,
No, I
right?
know.
Yeah, but it's someone's responsibility. It is someone's responsibility.
Yeah, because I mean, at that point, if somebody came up to me and said that, I would, why are you looking at my transcripts?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah. But like, so I don't, I'm not gonna lie. I'm teaching a class this fall on geology of the national parks,
Hmm.
and I have checked multiple times just to make sure she's not in there. I
Oh,
don't know what she's doing, but she's not in there. Um, I don't know. I feel bad for being so frustrated. I feel like,
stop it. No, I'm
yeah,
just kidding.
no, I really do. No, I do.
Yeah,
I am
I know,
not
I
kidding.
know.
Um, I think I feel frustrated that I wasn't really able to help her. Like
Yeah,
whatever
I've
she
I've been
needed.
there. The whole first office hours was me being there. So
So I don't know. I don't know how we help students from falling through the cracks like that. Because you're right. Like I guess now we have a system where they have support coaches, right?
yeah,
So I could reach out to her support coach at this point to have her be called in to get some more holistic advisement
yeah.
to
I'm
be
just
more
thinking about
supportive.
like who's there to connect like the student to the resources that they need because there's definitely something
Yes.
else beyond the scope of this class.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like, so one of the things I remember I went to a board meeting in June, and one of the things that I learned at the board meeting was that 50% of our students don't know even a little about the resources that we offer.
Hmm.
Um, So were there resources that could have helped the student? I don't know, but I just feel
Yeah.
like when you look at like the success rates of like students in community colleges in like for 3 years, like for graduation rates, for example, how many of those students are students who like just are never connected to what they need? Because whatever she needed, I was not giving her.
I also wonder if this is a student who's not sure why they're in community college
It's
or like what
both.
they're doing and they're just kind of moving through the system aimlessly. I don't know if that's the right word,
I
but
don't know.
yeah.
But she was, like I said, like in her liberal arts and like her English classes, especially, like she was doing well, like reasonably well. And
Hmm.
I don't know how it got as far as it got. It's probably not a unique story. Actually, as we're talking about this,
It's not.
right?
But it's not pervasive, but I don't think I wouldn't describe it as unique. It's rare, but like
Yeah.
this does happen.
I feel like the extent of it is maybe unique. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, some of this I'm like, what?
Piece of me died inside the that semester.
Yeah, yeah. I hate saying it too because I was just like, sometimes there's like a student who just makes you not like your job that much, and it's nothing. It's not because they're a bad person. It's just like
Yeah.
it's hard when you as an instructor have a bunch of things that you need to do to
Yeah.
like sit down and do the same assignment with a student 4 to 5 times.
I felt like I was having like this like terrible Groundhog Day moment where I was like, how are we
You were.
still
It was
finding
literally it was literally Groundhog Day.
the elevation of this house? How is this
It
possible?
has to be less than 700.
It has to be less than 700.
Yeah.
It was a little demoralizing.
How did you, like, as an instructor, kind of build yourself back up after that?
Um, I think that you have to like, that's a good question. I think you have to see all of the other successes that you are having in the class too.
Yeah.
Um, just the same way that like you can't be like, I'm crushing this as an instructor because these students are doing great. Like you have to stop and hold yourself accountable for the students that are at least in part accountable for the students that aren't doing great. So I guess it's like extending yourself the same grace the other way. Be
Hmm.
like, well, yes, but. So it was not a great time. But they're not always great times.
Yeah. I don't want to end the episode there. That's a
I
whole,
know
whole
it's such
spot
a
to end
downer.
it.
So Terry, who this is a teaser, Terry has agreed to be on our podcast in another,
Huzzah.
yeah. Um, Terry will say to me that someone is either a good role model or a good lesson. So, so I think that this is like, there's some good lessons I think to unpack here.
I like
Like,
that.
yeah, how we can do better as faculty of, I think, understanding what our own limitations and
Hmm.
constraints are, and then also being like, this is probably bigger than me. Like, I probably should have reached out to someone else rather than try to be the hero.
But also knowing to like cut stuff off earlier than 5 days. Like
Yes.
to be like,
Yes.
okay, like it's day three of this. Like now's a good time for you to be like, you've done this. We did this for
Yes.
2 days. Like
Yes.
you are doing this on your own now. I'm gonna
Hmm.
check back in 5 minutes. Like this is you should do this.
So I definitely remember doing things like that. And I would come
Yeah,
back 5 minutes later and it was
nothing's
like
done.
nothing. It was like a blinking
Yeah.
cursor. So yeah, I think
That's where I'm like, well, where are you struggling right now? Right? Like where's the struggle? Like talk to me about what the problem is so then I can be like, okay, like here's the places that you should be looking at things.
yeah, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
So the funny part, and here's maybe a more positive way to end. So the other two students who needed things explained to them one on one, and they were also coming to office hours during my not scheduled ones, they both got freaking A's in the class.
That's
Like,
awesome.
I know it's awesome, but at the same point, like, I just think that not everybody learns the same way.
Yeah, 100%. I was thinking about the grids, and we can end it 2 seconds ago if you want to, but I was
No,
thinking about when you traced it out as a grid and the student was like, oh, like I'm wondering how much of that, like I don't think they were seeing the connection from like the graphical representations to like what you were doing on the topographic maps. And I'm just
no.
wondering like if scaffolding that some way would be useful for everybody, right? Like so if you started
Yes.
out that way and then you like dial back the number of lines that you're using so that they can kind of
Yes.
get a sense of what that looks like, if that would be worth kind of implementing a little bit more into what you do.
I'm sure it would. I'm sure it would. Yes. For at least some of them, for sure. Um, yeah, I don't know. I've been rethinking like latitude and longitude as we teach them with degrees and seconds, like
Mm,
overall. Especially since like GIS now does so much with like just decimals. For latitudes and longitudes, like 42.623 degree north rather than like 42 degrees, 42 minutes, 12 seconds. Like it
yeah,
sounds like Battleship when you're doing it that way. Um, but topographic maps are all written in degrees, minutes, and seconds. But
yeah.
none of our geospatial stuff like Google Earth or Google Maps is written in degrees and seconds anymore.
I completely forgot that it was like minutes and seconds for degrees. I had to remind myself, and I'm like, I don't think
Yes.
other people are aware of that.
So the other thing that's crazy about minutes and seconds is that the abbreviation for minutes is a single dash, which is the abbreviation for feet, but it's not feet. And then the abbreviation for seconds is like the two lines, which is the
Which is
abbreviation for
inches.
inches, but it's
Yeah.
not inches.
And they don't even
It's
scale that way.
no, and it's
Yeah.
they're not scaled the same way, and it's not seconds. I mean, it is seconds, but it has nothing to do with time. So it just feels silly sometimes.
Well, thanks everybody for joining this episode on Amanda's hot takes on latitude and longitude.
This one is gonna go off the charts with views. Welcome to being viral. This is it.